there are things going on that are not made public, and I really wish some of these Nets media outlets would do a bit more digging because I think they would be surprised to find out certain things that are going on with the front office.
Gets it off in time, and he's got it, baby! Big time Nets win!
The only Nets fans you know.
Man.
I mean, come on, man. Or are these guys?
Welcome back to the NetsFansYouKnowPodcast. I'm Peter. It's episode 70. I guess this would be like a Hall of Fame type guest. Definitely someone who I've wanted on the pod for the longest time. Let's just go straight into it. Welcome to the show, Jay from BK. What's going on, bro?
What's going on, hyped. Pete? What's up, everybody?
I gotta calm myself down a little bit, and I'm gonna take us back a little bit. All right. Last season, when we traded Kyrie, we traded KD. How do you feel about the deals now? Looking back at the deadline, how do you feel about all the deals that were made? And do you think Mark's fumbled the bag as bad as we think?
The deals in hindsight are the same as for me they were at the time. They were terrible. Like, to go from a contender, and really a contender if you made certain moves around the edges, to what we are now, it's like, in saying, do I think he fumbled the bag? Yeah, because as a general manager, as a front office person, my expectation is that you have foresight. Like you basically have to see the future in a sense, and have your moves already lined up. So even if you are going to trade them, what are your next steps? Like, and I'm not talking about, I don't need he's more so reactive than proactive. We need somebody who's proactive, who says, okay, look, you already knew the KD thing was on the table. If he agreed to be a good soldier and be quiet, but if the ship sunk or started to sink, you would honor his request to trade him to Phoenix, then so be it. But if that was the case and you knew that was on the table, you got to have your next moves already lined up. So if you're saying, I'm going to trade Kyrie, okay, you got that lined up. You already know who's interested. Do I think they took the best deal? No. And they've admitted that they refused to work with the Lakers because they didn't want to send him to LA. But for more so, it's not just about those two deals. It's the deals that happened or didn't happen after. Like you had Spencer Dinwiddie's value when you traded for him, and that Kyrie trade was high, right? Could have just flipped him to another team right then. And I know they tried, but what deals did you do after? And then leading into the summer, and then leading into where we are now, having trusted Ben to be healthy all season. And I think he's played 60 games, somewhere around 60 games in the 2 years since we've traded for him. It's like, other moves I think should have been made, and that's a part of foresight, where you have to see certain things to position the team in case Ben is not healthy, and really he hasn't shown you that he can be healthy. So, I didn't like the trades then, I don't like them now, and we are where we are.
Was there really a team that would give up 2 first-rounders for Dorian Finney-Smith? We heard the whole 4 first-rounders for Mikal. I came into this season thinking he's a 1, and I had Kool-Aid in my ear telling me that he's a 3 now. I'm thinking about all this, and like you said, all the deals that could have been made. I just feel like it's another issue of Mark letting assets depreciate.
Absolutely. Speaking of Dodo, I love him. I love his family. I took my family out to P-Town last summer, and we got to experience some of he had a basketball camp and a family day the following day. So we got a chance to, see how he does things in his town. So I love them. The idea that you could have gotten 2 picks for him then, even possibly this summer, that's a part of the foresight again. It's like you had to see. He started out like where he had some games that it was like, yo, yeah, his value is still high. Like the Clipper game where he locked up Kawhi.
Yeah.
until he was on the bench in the fourth quarter and Kawhi just went ape shit. And it's like, yo, why is he on the bench? He's the one who shut Kawhi down all game. But from games like that, Western Conference teams, because we've heard how much of the Western Conference is a gauntlet, and it's not even 1 to 10. It's like 11 and 12 potentially. There's going to be one, possibly two teams who don't get in, who you like, yo, they might have been able to do something if they got in the playoffs. One
Oh,
of these
absolutely.
teams in the West, they could use Dorian Finney-Smith. I don't know why he wasn't traded. And I know for a fact he was in a lot of trade talks. Look, I understand you want to hold firm to what you would like to get back in a trade, but sometimes it's to the detriment of yourself and your team. If you could have made the team better in the long term by trading him, not even last year, by trading him this deadline or before the deadline leading up, like he's at an all-time high after that Clipper game from what he did to Kawhi, because Kawhi is going to be somebody who, if anybody's watched Kawhi this season, he's looked like one of them ones again.
Yeah.
If you have someone who you can say in a 7-game series, we can put on Kawhi and not shut him down. We understand that it'll be difficult to do that throughout a 7-game series, but at least slow him down somewhat. And you know you can count on him for that. A Western Conference team would have definitely traded for him. You got to sometimes, that's the point of negotiation. If a team is like, no, we don't want to give you 2 ones. Okay, you're going to give us a 1 unprotected and a young player? Will that work?
Mm.
That's the point and purpose of negotiation. You don't just stand firm on, this is what I'll take, and if I don't get this, then I'm not going to take anything. No, sometimes a player here, a player there will swing and sway what a trade is going to be. So, yeah, he's not the only one who it doesn't appear that his value will ever be as high as it appeared to be last year or this year leading up to the trade deadline.
A lot of people think when it comes down to the deadline, you wait to the last second. Teams don't want to wait to the last second. Just if anything, just to get that player on their team sooner. That's a whole myth. You want to wait. No, you want to get that guy in, adjusted in the locker room, get him learning the plays and whatnot. Is it all from Marks not giving into a trade that might be the best that you could get, even though it's not at the deadline? What is up with the ego? What is this?
For me, it just appears that, and this is from a number of different factors, that there's a certain level of stubbornness, and it comes off as, we're smart, we're the smartest people in the room. There's no proof of that, but the attitude and the way they carry themselves is, we're the smartest people in the room. We're going to prove you wrong by doing it our way, and we're going to be a championship contender or a championship winner by doing it our way, even though up until this point your way has clearly not worked. Like, I cannot understand why you go to the deadline day before making trades like that. I don't. You had an opportunity last year. You traded Kyrie on Sunday. Trade deadline was Thursday. The KD deal, I think it went down on Wednesday. I think.
I'm not sure.
I believe it went down on Wednesday. But those were franchise changing moves. So the timing of those, hey, whatever. I get it. They were both close to the deadline. But these other moves, when you're waiting to the day of, it's like you don't have to. A team like Indiana, who was another team interested in Dodo, but per se, they may have also been interested in Royce, right? They showed you by how hard they went and got Pascal Siakam. They weren't waiting around. They were not waiting around to get a deal done. Miami, few weeks before, they went and got Terry Rozier. They weren't waiting around. Boston in the summer, they just were like, look, Porzingis is available. He's going to expand our reach. We're going to go get him right now. It's like a lot of teams are not waiting until the deadline because, as you said, when you think about the trade deadline, which is now right before the NBA All-Star game, after the All-Star game, most teams have about 30 games remaining. You have less than half the season remaining. It's difficult to get people into your building, get them up to speed with a lot of things. You do what Indiana does, where you do it in advance. You get Pascal Siakam up to speed, where it's like by the time the playoffs roll around, you ready to roll. When you wait till the trade deadline, it's like, okay, we now have another excuse of if something doesn't work, this is why it doesn't work. Like and no disrespect to Dennis Schroeder, right? But getting him in here basically after the trade deadline, because he didn't play till that Saturday against San Antonio, and he looked good, and people got hyped, right? It was the San Antonio Spurs. Like they're clearly not right. They're not going for it. Even if you say he looked good last night against Orlando or he looked good in the game against the Grizzlies, right? Again, the Grizzlies are a team that's not in it at all. Orlando, it was just a terrible game, but he hasn't looked good in the other games against contenders. We're not a contender, but you would rather that a player gets in there and be a lot more seamless in what they're doing and incorporating themselves into the team. That way, if you make a playoff run, they've been with your team and a little bit more well-versed in everything that you're doing. This team just doesn't have any sense of urgency when it comes to things like that. And I do not get it at all.
Firing Vaughn, right? That happened after the All-Star game. Obviously, the NBA does not want to be outshined. If you remember in baseball, A-Rod opted out during the World Series, and Major League Baseball was livid with him. Livid with the guy. So you don't want to fire your coach All-Star weekend. I wonder, the players had to know that this was going to happen, right? Did they really not know JV was going to be fired until that morning? So that Monday morning?
They knew, but it's like
they have to know.
Nobody's going to be the one to decide to be Woj or Shams about it.
Oh, of course not. Yeah.
And leak the information. They like, look, man. And a lot of them were on vacation anyway, so
that makes sense.
I mean, but it had to happen. Like you can't come back from a 50-point loss, man. This is the NBA, man. Look, my sons have won some AAU games by some like monumental scores. And at a certain point, I was just looking at their coach like, please take my sons out because I don't want them to get hurt against these children who are not necessarily that good, right? I mean, you in AAU, in the young ages, some teams have never played before. So you understand that. But this is the NBA we talking about. Teams do not lose by 50 in the NBA.
No.
Not teams that are not purposely tanking. And we say we're not purposely tanking. So
it feels like it though.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. The organization would not say that they're purposely tanking.
I've said this in spaces before, and I already know that you know this, but for everybody else, this is the game plan. At least my conspiracy theory, which I think is pretty much fact. They don't want to go into the tax, right? They don't want to go into the apron, but you still want to have a competitive team, so you're still selling tickets. Kind of like a win-win. And you also sell it, say, listen, we're going to be star hunting in 2025. That's why we're going to be mid now. So we don't go into the tax. No. It's not that I don't want to spend. I spent when KD and Kyrie were here, which I have to do, give a lot of flowers to Joe Tsai for that, because he did pay millions into taxes. And I feel like Net fans are kind of giving him a bad shake with that. What do you think about that? That Net fans are saying that he's disappeared.
I mean, he has disappeared for the most part. Like I was going back, and I've been going back and forth today on the timeline with with a very well known. What's the proper way to describe this individual? With a very, I'll say a very well known account on Nets Twitter, who seemingly always says something lovingly about the Nets
I just
and
caught
their
it.
front office and ownership. I mean, it's like almost never has a bad thing to say, which is strange, but it's like MIA in terms of we don't see you. And when I say we, I mean the fans.
Yeah.
Like you only tweet about lacrosse. You only tweet about lacrosse or the New York Liberty. You the Brooklyn Nets owner also.
Winning is his religion, Jay.
Listen,
You know that.
he showed us that he's atheist when he said that nonsense. But he's. It's like right now you don't tweet anything about the Brooklyn Nets, nothing, but you still are tweeting about lacrosse. Like I'm pretty sure I saw tweets about lacrosse within the last week or two, and he tweets nothing about the Nets. He's not that visible as he's appeared in the past when he is at the games. And I don't look. Some owners are for other teams don't make themselves visible like that, but they're consistent with that. He's been consistent when he's in New York in sitting courtside. Before the All-Star break, he was in the building. He just wasn't sitting courtside. And I'm like, why not, man? People want to see you. People want to talk to you, you know? Even just to know that you still care. Sitting courtside will, for some people, will say that I actually still care because you don't tweet about the team anymore, and you have plenty. You used to reply to fans, you used to block fans. I mean, now it's like the Brooklyn Nets are not even on your radar at all, and that's kind of strange and disappointing at the same time.
Do you think it has anything to do with the mix of maybe stuff going on in China, like economically?
I have my suspicions on why he's been somewhat MIA. Things that I can't necessarily share publicly yet, but
A little birdie told me something.
It would be nice just for him to put out a statement, man. Do something. Do something where you acknowledge that the Brooklyn Nets are still your team. Because I don't think we've heard anything from him. Well, definitely not heard anything from him, but I don't think he's even tweeted about the Nets in 2024.
Yikes. But he is lockstep with Sean Marks, right? Because Sean Marks just said it the other day.
I don't know that they're lockstep, but I'll give Sean credit this way. What else would he say? Would he admit
of
that?
Of course, yeah, it's in front of me. I was making a joke.
Yeah. My fault.
I think he has a contract, bro. I don't know why I'm saying this. I'm probably going to be proven wrong, but like I don't know why. I just feel like the confidence that he's showing is because he already has something, not a wink, but like a promise or something. Because I know once they sign the contract, it has to be put into the league. From the league, it has to be kind of put out to the public, right? I don't know. I just feel it in my bones. Am I off there? Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm off.
I don't know if he has one or not. One thing I love about Sean, that man is arrogant, man. He is.
Yes, he is.
He is always like that. Brooklyn is an arrogant borough, so I give that to him. Like he always comes off as arrogant and hella confident. Whether he has a contract or not, whether he's going to be here or not, he still carries himself in an arrogant way, and I love that actually. So I don't think his behavior is ever telling on what's happening or what's not happening, which is a good poker face, to be honest. I respect a good poker face.
I agree. Building around the team, structure of the team. That's the GM, right? Is there anything to fix this team?
This team?
Yeah. If you could fix them, because these guys are not bad. This is what's frustrating, all right? These guys are good players. these guys would go to playoff teams and contribute, like a Royce O'Neal, right? But then they come here and it's like they don't fit
Fixable for this season.
for 20 games.
I don't think so. I don't. Could we back into the play-in? Sure, we could. Do we have a number of winnable games coming up? We definitely do. It's winning games, though, would be like putting lipstick on a pig, because sometimes you see beauty when there's nothing beautiful about it. And fixing what's going on means moving away from what you've been doing. It's basically insanity. You talked about not having a power forward. That's not been prioritized in the last 8 years.
But why is that though? It's so obvious.
They believe in playing basketball the way that they play basketball, running a small ball five and things of that nature. Because unfortunately, Katie tweeted it's a wings league, and then the general manager went and decided to get 8 wings. So I mean, it's like you don't only need wings, you need guys who play other positions who round out a basketball team. One thing that I would do to fix the problems that we have, and I don't know what's going to happen with Ben. If you told me you wanted to trade Ben this offseason, I could agree with you. If you told me you wanted to keep him and just let his money come off the books next summer, I could agree with you there also. I think it's dependent upon the number of picks that you have to attach, if you have to attach picks. Also dependent upon who you would take back in a trade. Like, I don't want to take back someone who has 3 or 4 more years on a deal on a bad contract. Like, I think that's counterproductive of moving forward. But a part of that, whether it be, the easy answer is we need a new front office. That's the easy answer. But it is deeper than that, because even if the front office was to remain what it is, and I have been led to believe that there will be at least one front office shakeup, because there are things going on that are not made public, and I really wish some of these Nets media outlets would do a bit more digging, because I think they would be surprised to find out certain things that are going on with the front office. But whoever's in place, this team needs at least 2 people who are official ball distributors. Doesn't necessarily have to be a point guard, although that would be nice.
That'd be ideal, right?
Right, it would be ideal. But they need ball distributors. And no disrespect to Dennis Schroeder, I don't see him as one of those guys. So when
He's
I'm
a
thinking
shooting
about,
guard, really, right?
listen,
Basically,
he can score well. He can score very well. But Brooklyn Bridges needs someone to set him up for easier shots. Cam Thomas needs someone to set him up for easier shots. CJ needs someone to set him up for easier shots. Right now, because I have my sneaking suspicions that he'll probably go to another team, Claxton needs someone to set him up for easier shots. Like, that's what Ben is able to do when he's healthy. But how healthy is he? Can we depend on him for 30 to 35 minutes a game? I don't think so. So we need at least 2 of these guys who are going to do that, who will get guys better shots. And it's funny because I hadn't thought about it. I think he's going to be a free agent. I strongly doubt he would come here, though. We need a Chris Paul type. Someone who's going to get guys their shots. He can score if he wants to, but he will get guys their shots, and he'll get them easier shots. So I'm not saying Chris Paul per se, but we need a Chris Paul type, someone who will get guys easier shots. We don't have that. That's why the offense looks the way that it does. And it didn't matter when Quitter James was on the team. It didn't matter who the coach was, because he was a one-man offense that he would go out there and he could get the ball to guys in different ways to score, and the offense would look amazing. Do I think we're going to get a playmaker on that level? I don't. But we need someone who's better than what we have right now, because we don't have guys who are able to distribute the ball like that. And really, I'll add to this, and I'm not taking a shot at Brooklyn Bridges because I really like the guy on the team. Part of that was shown in the Orlando game where he got stripped around half court by Wagner. Like, how does Mo Wagner strip you?
I don't know, bro.
You shouldn't be bringing the ball up court.
I've been saying this for months. Thank you. He shouldn't be. And, it's sad, but he really shouldn't be. I feel like he was kind of forced into this role, and you're talking about a guard, and I feel like if you can't get like a Chris Paul type, a guy who's going to set somebody up, like I want a point guard who's going to go downhill, right? And I'm thinking about this past trade deadline. Why didn't they get DeJounte Murray? If it really was going to be Dinwiddie and like 2 firsts, and maybe you could have traded Dorian Finney-Smith and roist it and get those picks and kind of put it over there to Atlanta. Like, I don't understand. You got Schroeder, and listen, I know Murray has the contract, but it's only a couple million more than Schroeder, really. So, like, well, what's up with that? Is Mark's really going to be like, oh, this point guard is going to come in 2025? That's why I feel like it's bullshit.
Yeah, well, he hasn't prioritized drafting a point guard either. For everybody talking about how well he drafts, what point guard has he drafted?
Isaiah Whitehead. Got you.
I mean, if Isaiah Whitehead I'm pretty sure it was before him. But Zay is not a point guard either. He drafted Marcus Zagorowski, who's no longer in the NBA. So, I mean, it's like point guard has not been a priority. Power forward has not been a priority. And those are 2 positions that would make the game a lot easier. Like Noah Clowney, I would argue, is a power forward. Why don't you play him next to Clax? Why don't you play him next to
I was just going to ask you that. That's
it's
crazy.
Like in G League games, he's shooting that thing. So quit trying to groom him to be a center. Let him get some power forward reps. It wouldn't hurt. I mean, this team is not going anywhere. So it would not hurt to play our young guys. It wouldn't hurt to give Jalen Wilson minutes. And because his energy is infectious. Like, come on, man.
He's shooting it well, too.
He is. Every team we play has a young, and it appears has a young energy guy like that. We got reasons why he's not playing that make no sense to me.
I don't know. This whole year, I've just been so befuddled. How do you feel about the whole like momentum switch of the fan base? Because you're pretty tuned in.
It was expected. I mean, you go from a contender on the court, a contender on paper, to this. It's expected, I get people are saying that a number of people who said they were Nets fans were actually player stands. I get that. So they're gone. Maybe that's half of the makeup of what they call fans, but they still have people who are coming to the games for whatever reason. There's still people coming to the games. Is it as loud as it was when 7-Eleven was there? Not remotely close. Like, it is not remotely close to being as loud, but it's to be expected. When you lose Hall of Famers that fast, the expectation is that the fan base is going to feel a certain kind of way about it. And you really saw it when they played Phoenix and Dallas within a number of days at home. It'd be wild in the arena for me a lot of times, because it's not just about that. The basketball game is talking to people that I know in the arena and just enjoying myself. But those 2 games, it was like there's an atmosphere for road teams that was not, the appetite wasn't what it was when 7-Eleven was here. And it wasn't as many fans for those teams when 7-Eleven was here. Like, people are talking about this year how away fans are taking over the arena and all of that. Yeah, they are for a number of games. It wasn't like that when 7-Eleven was here.
But it was like that in New Jersey, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
The people acting like it's brand new. But do you think Tsai cares at all?
I don't think he cares based on
Hmm.
not like saying anything in months. Like, there are people who, Steve Cohen from the Mets, right? You always hear him talking about the Mets. Even with what didn't happen even with what didn't happen in the with the bad free agents that the Mets signed last year, he's still active in talking about what's happening. It's like, yo, what's going on? You know, it show us something, and nothing's being shown.
I'm gonna give you a little pushback on that. All right, I'm gonna tell you why. Steve Cohen was a Mets fan. I don't think Joe Tsai was a Nets fan, right? This Cohen is living out like his childhood dream, right? Tsai it's a business. It's a business. That's the difference. Tsai does spend money though when it's right. Do you think you know what, man, this thing's been bothering me so much. I got to ask you about it. Claxton. I heard from 3 different people that Claxton was going to be traded at the deadline. I talked about it on all these podcasts about how he's going to be traded. Then he's not traded. Marks does not like to pay centers. What's the deal with that?
At this point, there's, I'll say two more than likely outcomes. I think there are more than 2 outcomes, but I think there are 2 more than likely outcomes. One outcome is that he's paid a number that a number of fans are going to be like, are you kidding me? Why did we pay him that? Or
I heard a max deal.
I've not, well, I don't know what his max number is, so I can't comment to that. I don't know what his max number is. But the second option is he just goes to another team.
If they let him walk, I'm going to have a seizure in front of you right now. If they let him walk for nothing. Is that really a fucking option?
Here's
I'm gonna lose.
Here's why I say it's one of the 2 likely options, because you and a number of fans, right? I'm and this is where I'm going to push back against you and a number of fans who say
Go
this.
ahead.
The terminology is wrong, because you all say let him walk. He's an unrestricted free agent. When he was a restricted, I'm pretty sure he was a restricted free agent 2 years ago.
Yeah.
They struck the deal with him. As an unrestricted free agent, he's free to go wherever he wants. They're not letting him do anything. They had their opportunity to not lowball him on a 2-year offer, to offer him a 3-year or 4-year deal. The 3rd and 4th year could have been partial guarantees. It could have been a higher number that, if he turned out to be where his trajectory seemed to be going, right? You could have had him you paid him, a lot of people don't know, his contract was for 2 years, $17 million.
Yeah.
You could have offered him in the 3rd year, $15 million. With a certain number of games played per se, as long as you saw that he was healthy. In the 4th year, it could have been guaranteed at 17, 18 million. Why wouldn't he have taken that? Because you would have basically doubled in the last 2 years what he made in the first 2 years. The first 2 years, 17 is an $8.5 million salary average. If you tell me 3rd year you go from an average of $8.5 million to 15, people will listen to that, because they like, okay, if I make that jump, they giving me that jump financially. And in the 4th year, if I make that jump, they giving me another jump financially. But when you do 2 years, you then, with not trading him at the trade deadline, you make it where those are the only 2 options. And I know you and some people may not like that as an option, but they wouldn't be letting him do anything. If he decides to say, you know what, I just don't like it here, you pay him at a number that fans may not agree with. But you know that that's an option when you decided not to trade him. You already knew that's an option. The second option being, if he decides to leave and he says money is not the factor, and I'm not speaking to anybody's pockets, but Clax is not someone who comes from you know how some people be like, I come from a poor family, I'm trying to get my family out of poverty, this and the third.
Yeah.
He don't come from a poor family. He does not. His parents from my understanding have lived a nice life. You know, so money may not, and the way that he carries himself, he don't even carry himself like that. So if he decided that for whatever reason that he wanted to go to another team, and he went to a team, I'll say God forbid, like OKC, who doesn't need to do a sign and trade, and he says, look, I'm going to go to a team that doesn't need to do a sign and trade with you all, and I don't want to do a sign and trade with you all anyway, because that would be giving up assets that the team has and make us worse when I'm trying to win a championship with this team I'm going to. That will be, Pete, that will be a doomsday event as far as I'm concerned, because I don't want to lose Clax. He's 24.
24, bro.
And losing him for nothing when you could have traded him for something, and you tried to trade him a number of times throughout the year.
To Toronto for one first rounder a couple years ago. Look, imagine if that would have happened.
Hey, some things have been documented, some things have not been documented. You've attempted to trade the man multiple times, and you didn't. So if he decides to say, you know what, you all have shown me no loyalty, I'm not going to show you loyalty. Can you blame him? You can't blame him.
No.
But the second option is doomsday as far as I'm concerned. There's no way, and I know you and a lot of other people say there's no way he walks out the door for no compensation. Like, that would be disastrous. Disastrous.
I agree.
And unfortunately, there are a number of teams who that happens to. Like the Icks, if memory serves me correct, got Jalen Brunson with no compensation going to Dallas. That's a disaster.
Yeah.
Toronto got no compensation for Fred VanVleet. They could have just traded him. That's a disaster. When you have somebody on your team who just leaves, like Boston got nothing when we signed Kyrie.
Or like with James Harden, Philly.
Well, no.
No. I'm just saying that because everyone's saying, "Man, you got Ben Simmons," but then you make the point of that I usually say. I say, "Well, okay, you want him to walk for free,
right?
You know what I mean?"
But Philly would have needed us based on that cap situation. They would have needed us to facilitate a sign and trade, because Tobias Harris was making so much, and it would have been difficult for them. I get it, but as much as I would love to leave have Clax re-sign, if he decides to leave and he leaves with no compensation, it goes back to one of the things we talked about at the beginning of the conversation. Your general manager, your front office people have to have foresight. They have to see this in advance. And when you say, Pete, you said that you heard from 3 different people that he was going to be traded, and those people were probably on the right track. Their conversations were being had. If you as a general manager say, no, I'm not going to trade him, you have to know you're going to re-sign him. You have to know you're going to re-sign him.
I said the same shit last episode. You have to know that you're going to re-sign him, and you have to put that into the salary cap for next year, right? You can't, like you said, you just can't. Man, but if that happens, then you're gonna have Clax at what, maybe 25+ million, Ben You're gonna have CJ's contract, Mikal's contract. Like, can they even add anybody else? Like, how could the team even improve then? Like in the offseason, if staying under the apron and re-signing Clax. That's when I was looking at like all these numbers, and it doesn't make sense to me. It would make a lot of sense if they traded him at the deadline. And that's another reason why I kept on saying it. I'm looking at these numbers, and this is what it's telling me.
Yeah, that the wild thing about that is, like last summer when they did the trade, look, a lot of us were happy when Joe Harris was traded, when Patrick Sammy Mills and were traded. The problem with that is there's a certain level of happiness that's taken away because they were only traded to re-sign Cam
Re-sign
Johnson.
CJ.
And what a lot of fans don't want to talk about is that their salaries basically matched. They gave him what those two were making.
Yep.
The problem is they also included draft picks to trade those guys. So you didn't just sign CJ to the 20 however many $1 million, the 4-year $108 million with incentives, some that he can reach, some that he won't reach. But you didn't just sign him for that. You also got rid of draft picks to re-sign him. So if that's the bar that you've set, then you're saying if Clax is going from, I think this year he's making 9 point something.
9, yeah.
I think he's somewhere around that, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going from that to adding another 15 to 20-ish million, the way they've been moving, you have to take that money off the books. And it's like, so who we gonna take off the books? Does that mean you trade?
That's my
Dennis
problem,
Schroeder?
bro.
Who do you get rid of when you do that? It's wild, man, but that's Pete again. That's where the front office has to have foresight, and they've already crunched all of these numbers, and they would know what their walkaway number is for Clax. They would know what that is. But you also should have had conversations with his representation. What kind of number you think he's looking for this summer? You could have had those conversations. What kind of number is he looking for this summer? And you can even see what the market is saying, that other teams, people in other organizations will talk.
Of course.
They'll talk. So you would see, okay, what type of number are they going to give him here? What kind of number would this team give? What teams are interested? And you would know the teams that are interested. One way, this is a part of the foresight, Pete. When you were having trade conversations, you would identify what teams might be willing to sign him in the offseason. Because some of them would be like, yo, we trade for him now if the price is right, and then just re-up him in the summer because we can go over the apron because he's already a player on our team. You could already scout out who some of those teams are that would be willing to sign him. That's where your front office has to have foresight. But going back to it, man, him leaving it would be disastrous.
Bro, you know what you're saying, all this, and it makes a lot of sense. And I thought of a lot of this stuff that you're saying, right? I've repeated it over and over, but like there are people getting paid to do this.
Yeah.
So why is it exactly? So why is it not happening? Are they lazy? Like I don't get, like I'm not sure. Maybe I'm like making it too simple, and I'm sorry if I keep on asking you the same thing. It just sounds like neglect, almost negligence of your job.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. The Nets have prices that they would like to pay guys. And what they've shown is Sean Marks likes to give guys the contract that he likes to give guys. He's overpaid. He overpaid Patrick Sammy Mills AM. He overpaid Joe Harris. He overpaid Cam Johnson. When he signed Spencer Dinwiddie during the season years ago, they got him at their price. When they gave CLV a contract, they got him at their price. when they gave Torian Prince a contract, they got him at their price. If they had re-signed Jared Allen, they were trying to get him at their price. They, for the most part, they try to get guys at their price, with the exception of a few different people. And sometimes trying to get guys at your price, guys are not going to go for that.
Dinwiddie this year.
Dinwiddie, the year that they refused to trade him at the deadline, when he was injured, teams were still interested and would have given us a pick, would have given us a player that would have helped us in that title run. He was injured, and teams still said that they would have given us a player. It's the same thing that I just said for Clax, because teams know they can go over the threshold if a guy is already on your team. There were teams who were interested in trading for him.
That's crazy.
They didn't trade him. You gotta, your front office has to have foresight in situations like this.
That's crazy. Everyone's just putting their eggs to 2025. But like you said, there's not going to be any big addition this offseason. Get another Dennis Smith Jr. as our top priority and add it to the roster. And like it's just so sad. It's just so sad. And I get it, having the plan of 2025 and all, but it's such a if. Like everyone's saying Donovan Mitchell. Why would Donovan Mitchell want to come to Brooklyn? I know he wants to come back to New York, but if the Cavs go like on a title run or they make it like to the Eastern Conference Finals, is he still going to come to New York? I don't know about that.
I mean, guys may still want to play here for reasons other than who the team is. I think this summer, it depends on who's in play. I think the summer will be better than it appears right now, because a lot of us are down. A lot of us are doom and gloom right now because the product that they've put on the court doesn't lead you to say, I have trust in you fixing it. It's one thing you take over a house that's burning down, which is what Sean Marks did. Like Billy King set the house on fire. He came and he put the fire out, and kudos to him. It's another thing when the same house, you burn it down yourself.
Yeah.
like you rebuilt the house that was burning down from another person. We appreciate you. But then we watched you burn the same house down. Now we supposed to trust you rebuilding the house? Can we argue that we've seen you rebuild the house? Yeah, we can argue that. But you shouldn't have been allowed to if you burned the same house down. That makes you as negligent as the guy whose job you took. You're just as bad as him. And for some would argue you're worse. So, that's always something that comes into play with how they're going to be moving this summer. And I actually wonder if there are players who, how the report, and I do not like when reports like this come out where they throw Coach Vaughn under the bus and say players were saying that they wouldn't want to play for him. Yeah. What a player saying that they wouldn't want to play for this front office also. Where are those reports? Because you know how this league is a relationship league. Do you think KD or Kyrie or Quitter James have loving things to say about this organization to other players? Do you think that they're singing the praises and Brooklyn is the place you need to go to? One thing that I've laughed at is, I forgot who I had this conversation with. You know how when Brooklyn Bridges and CJ were traded here, both of them spoke extensively about how sad they were to leave Phoenix.
Yeah.
And how they miss Phoenix and their life was in Phoenix and their dogs were in Phoenix and all this other stuff. Who's the last person that the Nets traded that told you they missed Brooklyn?
Nobody. And I could even take it even further. I was talking to someone, I can't say like who, like there's might be TV or radio, and they said that they were livid about coming to Brooklyn, the Twins. That they were not happy at all. Eventually they got happy, but they were like really upset.
I believe it.
let's start wrapping it up. I always ask all my guests this. Jay, what's your favorite Nets jersey?
I'm gonna tell you now. I wore the Brooklyn Blues
One of
because
my
I know
favorites.
on one of your previous shows you had mentioned it, and I was like, let me wear Brooklyn Blue. And it's funny because in the background, hold on, that's a birdhouse. For anybody who's wondering, that's a birdhouse my son made when I forgot what grade he was in. But in the
Oh, that's
background
dope.
is from the first game in Brooklyn, and Darren Williams and Joe Johnson are on it. So the Nets gave me a plaque about the first game.
That's dope.
I would like to say I like the simplicity of those. I think those are called statements. I like the simplicity of it all. Personally, my favorite, and it's just because is where I rep. My personal favorite would be the Bed-Stuy jerseys,
No,
which I
Jay,
know
those
of
are
most.
horrible,
I
Jay.
know
No,
most people say they hate it, but
Jay.
when you represent Bed-Stuy, there's a certain level of pride that I love seeing my neighborhood on the jersey. I
I
get it.
respect that. Though.
Aside from that, though, that's why it would get my top vote because I rep Bed-Stuy. Like I love the Cougars.
Hey, that's a
The
classic.
Cougars are just. I love the Cougars. So I would say Cougars, if I wasn't being biased, would be at the top of the list for me.
You were supposed to say Dr. J jersey. That's the correct answer always. That's the best jersey. There's no other answer. I love the Brooklyn Blue jersey, but Dr. J, that's come on.
Pete, I know you love that jersey. I think that I feel the same way about that, the way you feel about the Bed-Stuys.
Yo, you're crazy. I get it though. Let's get some plugs in there. You gotta go.
I have nothing to plug, man. Spread love is the Brooklyn way. That's what I'll plug.
All right, you guys can find me at NetFansYouKnow on Twitter, on YouTube. Enjoy your day, lunch, whatever you're doing. Have fun, be good, and let's make it to the end of the season. Let's go Nets. We're out.